Hello, this video is about multiplying fractions. So you've probably watched a couple of videos already, and our typical way of multiplying fractions is to multiply the numerator times the numerator, the denominator times the other denominator, getting our new numerator-denominator. We always try to reduce fractions to their lowest form, so we look at the 10 and the 24. They're both even numbers, so because of the rules of divisibility, we know that 2 will go into 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. So 10 divided by 2 will give me 5. 24 divided by 2 will give me 12. I look at my 5 twelfths and I try to think what will go evenly into both. The only thing going into 5 is 1 in itself. 5 is not going to go into 12, so there is no number that will evenly divide into both 5 and 12. We have reduced our fraction. So 2/3 times 5/8 equals 5/12. What we typically try to do is to do some cross-reducing before we reduce. This isn't a huge fraction. Some of the ones that we'll see in a few minutes are a lot larger. Well, let's just practice that skill. So we look diagonally. If we had a fraction 2/8 written like this, we would try to reduce it. We would see that a 2 would go into both of them because they're even numbers. So we divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. So I have a numerator-denominator stacked up on top. But I also have a numerator and a denominator horizontally. These are the two numbers that we grab. So I see the 2 and the 8. 2 will go into both. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. I'd like to cross-reduce something with the 3 and the 5, or the 5 and the 3, but there is no common factor. When I'm doing the cross-reducing, it must be a pair. We can't just cross off the 5. Okay, so now we have 1 times 5 gives us 5. 3 times 4 will give us 12. We come up with 5/12, which is what we had on the previous one. The cross-reducing really helps on the larger numbers. So let's take number 2, for example. We're going to multiply 5 times 2 gives us 60. Then we have to multiply 9 times 25. So come over here in my scratch paper. Multiply 5, 4, 2, 25. I come up with 225. Now I have a really large fraction that I need to reduce. Since the numbers end in 5 and 0, I know that 5 will go into both of these numbers. So 60 divided by 5 equals 12. I don't know how many times 5 will go into 225, so I'm going to come over in my scratch paper. 5 won't go into 2, 5 goes into 20. 5. And I see that 5 will go into 225 45 times. I come up with 12 over 45. It's tricky. I know 2 won't go because 2 won't go into anything that ends in a 5. 2 will go into this, but not into here. 3, oh yeah, 3 will go. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 3. Didn't leave myself much room. 12 divided by 3 equals 4. 45 divided by 3, I don't know. Okay. And I find that 45 divided by 3 gives me 15. I look at my 4/15. 2 will go into 4 and 4. Neither of those will go into 15 evenly, so we are done. So that's the long form. I didn't cross-reduce. Instead of going through all this work, I would prefer to cross-reduce. It saves my accuracy. I could have made a mistake in my multiplication or my division besides the time that it took. So I'm going to look at cross-reducing for my second choice. So I look at 9 and 12. I know 3 will go. 3 divided by 9 is 3. 3 goes into 12 4 times. Then I look at my other pair. Oh, I can find a common factor. 5 will go into 5. 5 will go into 25. So I'm going to divide both by 5. 5 divided by 5 gives me 1. 25 divided by 5 gives me 5. Now I'm going to multiply my numerator times my numerator. 1 times 4 equals 4. 3 times 5 gives me 15. It's a much faster process. When we multiply mixed numbers, we need to make them into improper first. So we do that by multiplying 1 times 4 plus 1. So it's 1 times 4 plus 1 over 4. That denominator stays. 1 times 4 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 4. So this becomes 5 fourths. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16. Keep my denominator over 3. I would love to reduce this 5 and the 3, but there is nothing common in that pair. There is no factor that divides evenly into both 3 and 5. I look at my other pair. 4 and 16. Oh yeah, I see that 4 will go into both. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Some students like to rewrite their multiplication equations, and that's totally fine. So, however you look at it, 5 times 4 equals 20. 1 times 3 is 3, or if you pull it from here, we have an improper fraction. We have a top-heavy fraction. So we think of it as 20 divided by 3. 20 divided by 3. 3 won't go into 2, but 3 goes into 20 6 times. 3 times 6 gives me 18. I subtract, and then I read it clockwise to write it properly. My result is 6 and 2/3 equals 6 and 2/3. My fourth one, I have quite a variety. I've got a mixed number, a proper fraction, and a whole number. So whenever we multiply and or divide by mixed numbers, we need to make them improper. So we'll go ahead and do the same. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 5 is 21 over 8. I'm going to keep my 4/7, and whenever I have a whole number, I simply put a 1 underneath it, and then it becomes it's a fraction. It has a numerator and denominator. 16 divided by 1 is still 16. I haven't changed the value. So let's put 16 over 1 times. Remember, there's 3 ways to see multiplication. You could see the dot. You could see a multiplication sign. You could see parentheses. So let's go ahead and cross-reduce. I look at my 8 and my 4, and I know 4 will go both places. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 8 2 times. 7 and 16, now there's nothing common but 7 and 21. Let's divide both by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 goes into 21 3 times. I could quit here, but I think I'll take one more step. I have a 2 and a 16. This is a legitimate number. I can use it again. So I'm going to take my 2 and my 16 and divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 2 goes into 16 8 times. I'm left with 3 times 1 times 8 gives me 24. 1 times 1 times 1 gives me 1. And I know that 24 divided by 1 is 24. My final answer. Let's look at a division. Multiplication and division are exactly alike, except with division, we flip, invert, reciprocate the second fraction and multiply. So 5/7 becomes 7/5. The division sign becomes a multiplication sign, and the 25/49 stays. We only flip the second fraction. That green is not as easy to see. So I want to do some cross-reducing because at this point it's multiplication. So please remember that you invert it, change it to multiplication, and then you can do the cross-reducing. All right, I've got my 7 and my 49. I know 7 will go into 7 once. 7 will go into 49 7 times. I look at my 5 and my 25. Yeah, I can go ahead and cross-reduce that pair. So I do. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 will go into 25 5 times. I'm left with 5 times 1 is 5. 7 times 1 is 7. It's a proper fraction, meaning the numerator is smaller than the denominator, and I cannot reduce it. The only thing going into 5 is 5, and it won't go into 7 evenly. Only thing going into 7 is 7 in itself, 1 in itself, and it won't go into the 5, so I have reduced it as low as I can. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Keep practicing.